Network.
I hope we indeed do live up to the title of today's talk, Pleasure Through Variety. If you came here expecting something else, I hate to disappoint you, but this is about beer tasting in sampler packs, not the other pleasure through variety. My name's Stephen Hale. I'm going to give you a super quick rundown on Schlafly Beer, the St. Louis brewery. We are about to celebrate our 25th anniversary in St. Louis. The year we opened in 1991, we were the third brewery in the state of Missouri. There were just over 300 breweries in the country. There are now, as you all know, close to 4,700 breweries in the country. The landscape has changed dramatically. We opened a second location 12 years after we opened. That does the majority of our production work, the Schlafly Bottle Works. I think the greatest claim to fame of the Schlafly taproom downtown is that Snake Plissken walked past the brewery in the movie Escape from New York, which was filmed entirely in St. Louis. So it's a bit of an iconic building in the city. The topic were, more history of the brewery. 25 years of brewing in St. Louis and watching a lot of changes. But we do want to jump into the 8 beers we're going to taste. So I will let Will talk about the background of the sampler and seasonal pack program that we've been working very hard on for the past few years.
Yeah, so beginning late 2015, we really wanted to revamp what we did with sampler packs, as opposed to just taking 2 or 3 year-round beers that we do and put them in a pack and you can buy it as a 12-pack. We kind of came up with this idea of more of a curated sampler to where we get 4 or 5 people in a room, and it's kind of the conversation of what 4 beers are going to work really well together. So with the beers that we're tasting right now, the kind of theme about the pack is kind of this fall theme, and we also wanted to give a little touch of education. So as you can see on the back of the box, we started at one side of the SRM scale and moved up. So the first beer that we're going to be sampling is Noble Lager. This is a really nice, smooth drinking lager. It's probably one of my favorite beers that we'll brew all year. And as we go down the line, you'll start to see the color will get a little bit darker and a little bit darker. And with our variety packs, that's kind of what we wanted to do. We know that craft consumers, they like to drink a lot of different things. So why not, 1, give them a lot of different things, and then 2, try and provide a little bit of an education point on something that you might not know about.
The beers will start around here in a minute. There is one pack that we didn't bring called Patio Pack in the summer, and its theme, as Will mentioned, is all summertime beers, and we sort of stumbled into the flow of light to dark, but they have the sampler packs have absolutely exploded in popularity. We almost can't keep them in the shelves, and we want to pass the boxes around the audience, pass them all over the place. We don't need them in front of us. The first one that she's passing around now are the last beers we're going to taste. The Bonfire box is that's okay. The Bonfire box is the one we're tasting. The Stout Bout is the one we just did last winter and spring, and that's our next one to come up this coming winter. So I think the most intriguing thing about these boxes is that, as the title of the talk suggests, pleasure through variety, you don't have to have just one 12-pack full of the same number of beers. There's a variety, there's something in there for everybody, which is pretty exciting to, I know that I've got several of these at home and I don't have a kegerator. I keep my kegerator stocked with these because there's always something different. We all know that it's very easy to want something different and not necessarily the one beer style that you have on tap. So if you're not in the mood for a Noble Lager, but instead want a hoppy APA or a pumpkin stout, you've got it. And your friends who come over may not want your favorite beer that's on tap on your kegerator. The variety of the different beers answers that for everybody. So you don't have to go to a store and buy 4 different 6-packs to get it all. You can buy one container that has all of it. I think it's time to start talking about the Noble Lager. That's the first beer coming around. I hope everyone has glasses. I know we do, and they're empty. But you guys first. I'll give it to everybody else first. We're okay. we're here all weekend, and we're supposed to drink for our job. Thank you very much, Vince.
Thank you.
The Noble Lager is a new beer in our lineup of a series of beers we used to call the Lager Loop, with Summer Lager in the summer, White Lager in the winter, which is a Keller beer or Zwickel style beer, unfiltered Pilsner basically. And now we've come around to the circle of the Noble Lager we'll have until White Lager comes out. And we thought this would make a good addition to the this sampler pack in the fall called Bonfire Box. We thought the name was kind of clever for an autumnal choice of beers. And
This is the day drinking beer.
day drinking beer, yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of different ideas and thoughts. Oh man, that never gets old, does it? There's a lot of different ideas and thoughts that go into this. So one thing that I had really put a lot of ideation around was, man, in the fall on a Saturday, I probably will start drinking around noon, which, some people do, some people don't, whatever. But you can't drink big IPAs all day, and, you can't drink big stouts all day. So, doing some yard work, hanging out in the lawn, Noble Lager's a great beer. And as we progress down the line, you can kind of see the beers develop into what would be a fall night that you kind of hang out by the bonfire, have some nice kind of little bit more robust beers that pair well with that bonfire. So the other big thing is that 3 of these beers you can't get outside of our 12 packs. So that's another really, really nice opportunity that we use with our sampler packs. We try and keep at least one beer that you can normally get. But we also, Steven and the guys, they brew a lot of awesome beers that we just have on draft. I was kind of selfish and said, you know what, I would love to have House Brown in a bottle. I would love to have Pumpkin Stout in a bottle. But it doesn't really make sense to do 6-packs. So let's do these curated samplers, put some of these awesome beers that we don't usually get out into the stores and stuff, and put them in the sampler. So as we progress into the night, House Brown Ale comes about. We've been brewing this beer since 1991. Steven?
Sorry, I'm a little caught off guard trying to remember all the dates. When you've been at a brewery for 25 years, there are a lot of very crystal clear memories and some that are a little fuzzier. But the brown ale has been brewed for probably about 20 years or so, but it's never gone into a bottle before. And I like to think of it as the perfect addition to this 12-pack as a pretty straightforward, easy drinking American brown ale, gently hopped. We save the hoppiness for the American Pale Ale, the dry hopped APA. But this is a fabulous, everyday. I hesitate to use the word session unless the beer is close to 4 or 4.1%. But that's just Steven's outlook on the world. I don't personally think a 5% beer is a session beer. You can drink a lot more of them than a 7 or 8% beer, sure, but session means very low alcohol. But it has a sessionability of it because it's not aggressively hopped. It's not super high in ABV. It's a very approachable drinking brown ale. Has everyone gotten the brown ale?
Yep.
It's been around too?
Yeah, it's going on right now.
One of the other things that Schlafly Beer does not do, and I forgot to ask if any of you have been to our breweries in St. Louis before. Excellent. Oh, a good show of hands. Thank you. One of the things we have done from the beginning is to name our beers with the ever so creative names like Pale Ale, Pilsner, Oatmeal Stout. We have not gotten caught up in giving what the TTB refers to as a fanciful name, and I love some of the names that are out there in the world, but there's almost a shortage of them. Plenty of articles have been written about this. And for those of you who read the results of the awards, you knew I was going to say this, Will, of the medals today, I'm not sure, sorry, I don't remember the name of the brewery that had a beer called Trump Hands, but the timing kind of couldn't have been better. And I'm thankful we don't name our beers for a variety of reasons. And that's not entirely true. A couple of our beers do have fanciful names, and they're fun. But these all basically, you know what you're getting when you buy a sampler pack or buy our 12 packs. It is pretty much the name of the beer. It's not the only way to do it. It's just what we do. People can do whatever they want to do. We're all about kumbaya. So, brown ale. Can we do questions along the way? Okay. Feel free, if you have questions, raise your hand. We'll try to see it through the glaring, wonderful spotlight to highlight your two speakers here today. And we're happy to take questions. Is there a question?
Oh, okay.
Okay. So a microphone can be passed around for anyone who has questions.
We had one right here.
Hey, how's it going, man? I was just wondering how long you've been brewing for, and what was the first beer that you ever made?
Two-part question. I've been brewing since I was 19 years old. My brother taught me on Mother's Stovetop in Syracuse, New York, and I believe it was a pale ale or a plain dry stout. I don't remember which one. And then years after that, I was invited to move to St. Louis from Maine sight unseen by my college classmate Dan Kopman, who was the co-founder with Tom Schlafly. And when your name is Tom Schlafly, you get to do things like put your name in a Slayer format on a t-shirt. I'm not sure he was the one who thought of that. In fact, I know he wasn't. But Tom and Dan founded the brewery in 1989. We opened in 91, and I've been there since 1991. So what's today? I think about 8 days from now, I'll celebrate 25 years of being at Schlafly, which is kind of fun. So come on, let's raise a glass to that. 25 years is good. Thank you. I wasn't planning that. It just happened. So.
You have any talks some more? Okay. We'll take the mic out of Steven's hands for a minute.
I'm losing my voice too.
So I'm just going to talk about the sampler packs for the most part because it's what I do most of the time at the brewery.
Just keep it close.
Thanks. So one of the other things that we really wanted to do is, I'm sure a lot of people have friends here that you try and take out to the bar, and they're like, I don't know what I want to drink. I definitely don't want to try a craft beer. Just give me a Bud Light. So one thing that we really try and do with the sampler packs is provide an in for your friends who don't want to drink craft beer. The in, Noble Lager. It's great. Your buddy wants to drink a Budweiser. Try this Noble Lager, man. It's a craft beer. It's made by a local brewery. Okay, I'll give that a shot. Or, there's the person who hears all the buzz about the IPAs. Still a little worried that it's going to, tear their taste buds out. You give them a nice dry hopped APA. It's not super hop forward, but what it does do is it can either turn that person on to hops. They can decide if that's what they really want to do. Or, they may say, I don't really like hops. So then you can hand them a house brown ale. And, it really just helps people who are getting into craft beer, who are new to craft beer, be able to try multiple styles at one time without, oh, man, do I want to buy that six-pack? I don't even know if I'm going to like that. So that's really one big thing that we wanted to try to kind of get over with our variety packs was be able to offer a bunch of different styles and a similar theme that someone who is new to beer can go try everything and kind of work their way into what they like in the beer scene.
It has just occurred to me that although the popularity of usually 12-pack sampler packs is increasing, and they can be 4 beers, 3 bottles, or 3 different beers, 4 bottles, whatever the brewer wants to do. I don't think you see many 12 different beers in a sampler pack yet. So I think one thing you're all experiencing now, sorry, I have to keep this up here. One thing you're all experiencing right now, this whole weekend, is we are all sitting in the midst of the world's greatest sampler pack. There are about 800 breweries pouring beer here, and each one's pouring about 5 beers. So the simple math tells me that's 4,000. This is like a 4,000 beer sampler pack in the Colorado Convention Center, which I think is pretty cool. You can try, please don't try all of them. Try as many as you are able. I know one of my favorite things at a festival, when my wife Sarah and I go around, she'll get one, I'll get the other, we'll split it and move on. And we can double our pleasure through variety that way. So you guys have a fabulous opportunity to try so many different beers here. And waiting in line works for a lot of people because you will taste some amazing beers. By waiting in line, you will probably miss 2 or 3 or 4 other pretty amazing beers at other breweries too. So I'm not out there waiting in lines. I don't cut around the back either, but there is an endless amount of beer to try here. So And of course, the booth you're all going to flock to right after this is booth number X2, the giant tap handles over there. Was I supposed to say that, Tara? Is that all right? We have 5 beers on tap. None of them are up here now. So you can try these 4, a couple of the other hop trial beers, and the 5 beers that are on tap at the booth. So that is if you can make it through the crowd. But does anyone else kind of love weaving through a crowd without bashing people down and finding a way through it like a little maze? Anyone else really? I see a couple nodding. I think it's kind of fun. I'm in a hurry to get back to the booth, and I don't hate the crowds. I like people. I love people. So otherwise I wouldn't be sitting here talking to all of you guys. So I do see you, by the way, not just the bright lights of Broadway or something.
Do you want to talk to him about dry hopped APA?
Oh, I'm supposed to be talking about a beer, yes. As soon as we get some in our glass. Dry hopped APA has a fabulous history because our customers requested this beer. Pay attention to what your customers want. Thank you, Tara. Our customers said, make a big hoppy beer. This was in the late 90s. Would have been in business for probably 7 years at that point. And that beer style was not very popular yet. And we made a wet hop version of it first. People loved it. We continued to dry hop the beer and increase the amount of dry hopping. And it became outrageously popular. So we continued it for years. It was in regular production. We've scaled that back a little bit and now offer it in the 12-pack bonfire box. I can tell you that the beer is just under 6%. This is 5.7% ABV, 50 IBUs. If you would like to know what the SRM is, then you can hold it up next to your phone and say that it's something like, what is that about? I'm terrible at SRM. I know what 2 is and I know what 40 is. What?
That's why I made this pack for you to help you with SRM.
Oh, it's listed on the pack.
Thank
you, Will Rogers. So, one of our hoppier, former year-round, regular hoppy amber beers. I'm going to stop talking so I can take a sip.
There you go. Yeah, so like I said earlier, one of the reasons we really like to have this beer in the pack, Stephen kind of hit it on the nose with, we used to offer this beer year-round, and we kind of pulled it away to pursue some other things. But, you know, we dropped it in there as a nice little treat for people who love dry hopped APA. But we also feel that it's a nice intro to hoppy beer. It's really nice on a fall evening. You know, you can have a few of them, maybe not Steven. I consider my session beer is about 5.5%. So a couple of them in the evening, really nice, easy drinking hoppy beer. And once again, it's a bottle that you can't go out and pick up in a 6-pack. So we thought that it would be a great addition to the pack in that sense. As we kind of bop around and we can start passing out some pumpkin stout soon, the other pack I really wanted to talk about that we probably put the most work into this year was our hop trial pack. So a lot of people are coming into craft beer. They understand, I think, a little bit about what a hop does, what role it plays in beer. But what we really wanted to do is show people what some would call the terroir of what a hop does. So a hop from the Pacific Northwest does something totally different than a hop from Australia, as a hop from Germany. So what we wanted to do is really accentuate that. So what we did is we took 4 hops and made the same beer and just changed out the hops. So you can drink a beer from with hops from the Pacific Northwest, and it's going to be really nice, kind of piney, citrusy. And then what you're going to do next is you're going to drink a beer out of the UK, and that's going to be nice and spicy. But the great thing about it is the only thing that changes from beer to beer is the hop. Thank you. So one big thing with this is the relationship that we have with our farmers. We actually get to go out and walk the hop rows, very close relationships, picking hops off the vines, and really deciding what's going to work well for us. And some of these times, the farmers will give us hops, brand new proprietary hops. Most of the times they don't have names, it's letters and numbers, and we'll take that and brew a beer with it. And for the longest time, we've just been calling it hop trials. So we'll brew a beer, and talk about the flavors and high points that a hop grower would be able to go to another brewery and say, hey, listen, what kind of beer are you looking to brew? This hop can give you all of these flavors. And so essentially, we wanted to take that process, put it in a variety pack, and then let other people out in the market try that same process.
Will has pretty much touched on all the salient points of this pack, and I would encourage you to take another look. If you haven't, you can come up and grab this. We sent a bunch of these out to the media to press, and they absolutely loved it. It was a huge hit. They hadn't seen a whole lot like it, and I love it, even though I'm not necessarily the biggest hophead in the world. These beers are absolutely fascinating to try from the perspective of what hops are the farmers growing and how are they so radically different from one to another. We have to pause on hop trial. We'll get back to it when we start tasting them, because we haven't tasted the pumpkin. Sorry, by we, I mean Will and I have not yet tasted these. If you guys already have the pumpkin stout out there, this is one of my favorite stories to tell. Will, you have to finish your glass so you can taste this beer too. I was at a beer festival in Springfield, Illinois about 6 years ago, and we brought case beer, and the pumpkin had just been released to that market, and we were running out. There was only one case, and we realized we would not have any beer for people to taste if we didn't somehow try to save it a little bit. I looked at the 2 cases of oatmeal stout, and the light bulb went off. I filled my glass half full of pumpkin ale, half full of oatmeal stout, and it was delicious. I am not necessarily an anti-fan of pumpkin, but it's a regular pumpkin ale, which is on tap at booth number X2, right over there by the big tap handles. And it's a fabulous beer for those who love pumpkin. It's been one of the highest rated pumpkin beers in the country, therefore the universe and the galaxy. And when you mix it with stout, it becomes an entirely different animal. People loved it. We had a whole lot of it to pour for the rest of the festival, and we didn't really run out. So our friends, our co-workers over there are going to kill me for telling you to try both, but at the very least try the pumpkin. And this pumpkin stout was discovered at that festival. The following year, we turned it into our annual Hop in the City Beer Festival beer style, the pumpkin stout.
So, Stephen, why is the pumpkin stout so great as kind of the finishing, the capstone, the end of the road, as you will, for the bonfire pack? That fall evening, what makes the pumpkin stout so great?
Tons of spicy cinnamon, nutmeg, clove flavors combined with a robust, malty, roasty stout. Everyone knows the characteristics of a stout, the basic characteristics of a pumpkin ale, and the two combined together are absolutely delicious. Everyone did get it, yes? There are probably a lot of empty glasses out there. I hope. It's nice to see a full glass, but it's nice to see an empty glass. The bonfire box, the blue one that we passed around first. And by the way, you can taste these beers in any order you want, but this is the recommended order we like in terms of working up the flavor thresholds. So pumpkin stout is a lovely combination of, so you're really getting 5 beers. We should charge more for this, Will. You got 5 beers in this pack. I mean, think about it. You got pumpkin and stout together in one bottle here. So
another beer that we don't offer in 6-packs.
Yes, also never in another 6-pack, which is a real benefit.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we kind of touch on the stouts, there was one other 12-pack out there that was floating around that we had called the Stout Bout. And so what we really did with this pack was took 4 different stouts and kind of used it to talk about our Big Stout and Oyster Festival in March. I think it's easy to say that it's the largest oyster festival that's not on a coast. And so, stouts can be scary. I think we can go back and think about our friends who aren't into craft beer and they look at a big hearty stout, and that's the scariest thing that you've ever put in a glass because it's dark and you can't see through it. But with the Stout Bout, we put some flavors in there that might be a little bit more approachable. So things like chocolate, things like coffee, oatmeal. We also did our Irish Extra Stout in that pack, and it's just one other way that we we kind of took a different look at how you can do a sampler pack.
Yes.
I have a question. I have 3 questions, actually.
Okay.
And I'm going to start with the stout pack. It's kind of a risky move, I feel like, in today's craft beer climate. I love a good stout. I would buy a stout pack, and clearly there are plenty of people who will. But it's not the first thing you think of in doing a variety pack. So I'm curious what kind of success you've had with it, if you know. Is it just us beer geeks or us traditional beer drinkers buying the stout pack, or am I completely wrong and it's a roaring success?
So I think when it first started out, it was definitely a pack for the beer geeks, and it was our first venture kind of into this new outlook on the variety pack. But I think really what it did is it took the craft consumer, all you guys out there, and you were taking this 12-pack to parties. You were taking this 12-pack, to your family's house, family dinners, and then it gave that kind of person, like I said, who's afraid of that dark beer in their glass, an opportunity to try one beer that they're not gonna have to buy a 6-pack for, or go out and buy a pint. They can just steal it from you, and have that.
Okay.
Another part of that answer is the title of this presentation. There's pleasure through variety. You might want an oatmeal stout one night and a coffee stout another. Or sorry, coffee stout for breakfast, oatmeal stout in the afternoon.
Yeah, that's
Something
more my
like that.
style. That right there. All right. And by the way, the single hop variety pack, I think, is just a brilliant idea. That must be just going gangbusters for you. My second question is more is on the packaging side and production. Doesn't doing variety packs present a challenge in the brewery in terms of packaging? Traditional bottling lines are meant to pack one style. Do you have to hand pack all these because they're variety? Can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, do the production brewers love us, Will?
Yeah, hopefully they can't hear us talking about them across the way. No, but yeah, it's definitely a challenge. You have to put a lot more work into it. So what we'll do is we'll run one style, and we'll kind of pack it into leftover packaging that we have. We'll palletize it, do the same thing again, do the same thing again, do the same thing again, and then we'll take those beers and just repack them into 12 packs. So yeah, there is a lot more work that goes into these 12 packs as opposed to just doing a regular single style 12 pack, for sure.
I think every brewer that's come to this festival, and every brewer everywhere could say that a whole lot of love goes into their beers that they make. A whole lot of love goes into putting these packs together. Yeah. It's a lot of work.
And by the way, anybody can raise their hand if you have questions. We do have some time left. And the other one I wanted to ask, I don't know if there's an answer, but did craft beer just adopt or kind of invent the variety pack? Before I was introduced to craft beer, there was never a macro variety. I didn't get like Bud Light and MGD in the same 6-pack. So, but craft beer's really adopted it. Was it in? You know what I'm saying?
So yeah, I absolutely understand what you're saying, and I think what the variety pack really spawned out of what the craft beer culture is. Steven kind of hit it on the head when he said we're kind of inside the largest variety pack in the country right now. As craft beer drinkers, we love to go out and try new things every day. So to be able to get 4 or 5 different beers from a certain brewery in one pack, I think just the way that we drink beer, the need was there for us to try different things in one box that I can pull off the shelf.
So you have the hop trial packs, and there's the multiple types of variety packs for different styles. Have y'all ever considered doing a yeast variety pack where you use one wort and 5 or 6 different yeast to give the consumer a chance to try those different, how the yeast impacts the flavors of those beers?
As a home brewer of many years, I'd like to take the initial answer to this and say that one of the greatest things that homebrew clubs can do is everybody brews the same wort, and then everybody pitches a different yeast, and you come out with completely different beers. Some similarities, of course, but the short answer, I'll let Will give the longer answer, but that's my initial impression. It's a fabulous experiment to do. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's one of those things, that a new craft consumer doesn't know a lot about yeast and different kinds of things. I mean, I remember trying some of my first craft beers, being a Sierra Nevada Pale Ale or a Schlafly Pale before I worked there. And, there were a few differences, but then somebody gave me a Weiss beer. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is the difference in this? And it's the yeast is another great point, as opposed to, malt can kind of vary here and there, but yeast is definitely something that we've thought about and are looking into in the future, for sure.
Please make sure to see us afterwards so we can get your photograph and put it on the side of the pack of the new sampler yeast pack we do.
Right, we'll give you credit for that one.
In the future, you totally get credit for that.
Thank you. First off, huge fan of the brewery, St. Louis native right here. I just had a two-part question for you real quick. First one was, in terms of variety, have you guys ever tried doing a sour? I've just never been to Schlafly and tried a sour before.
You want to take that? You probably know better than me.
Yes, but it's been slow going. We recently installed 2 fooders at the tap room on the first floor as part of a bottling expansion, so the program will increase soon. We just haven't dove into the deep end like many breweries have. So it's a great thing. It's popular. We love them. I think my wife would leave me for a particular sour that's available in our area in St. Louis. So a lot of people love them. I like them. They're not for everybody, but they are for a lot of brewers to make, and we want to do it right. So we're working into it slowly. We always want to keep the eye on the ball for pale ale, oatmeal stout, Kolsch, our production beers, and keep them solid. So it doesn't mean no sours. It means sours will develop in time.
Right. And then my second question was, have you guys ever worked with any more St. Louis breweries for collaborations and ever put any of those in your variety packs?
We have not done a St. Louis collaboration in a long time. We just did a collaboration this year with a brewery out in Virginia, Port City. I think they actually won a medal today, so good on them. But yeah, we just did a collaboration with them. As far as St. Louis breweries, we haven't done one in a while. But there are breweries out there doing that kind of thing. I think what Sierra Nevada is doing with the beer camp pack is, that's exactly what you're talking about. It is the collaboration variety pack. And the bar's set pretty high. I know I'm a pretty tall guy, but I don't know if I can jump and clear that bar. It's definitely something to think about. The St. Louis beer scene's growing every day. I think within a 30, 45-mile radius, we have almost 30 breweries now. So the option's there to definitely do something like that as well.
We never say never. We just say pleasure through variety.
I have a question for you guys. I know you're pretty big, so some of these questions may not apply, but being small, what do you guys set your benchmark for, and what are some of the difficulties you deal with in terms of packaging costs or contracting? And when you're looking at doing these multi-packs, how do you deal with some of those issues?
Yeah, the big thing is our biggest cost is having the packaging guys work more. They have to take extra time to repack all those cases. As far as getting the materials and things like that, we're actually very fortunate to be in St. Louis. There's a lot of great industry outlets there. We get all of our glass from Peevely, Missouri. All of these boxes were designed by an organization called Boxes Inc., which is based in Missouri. So as far as materials go, that's the easy part. That's the part that I enjoy, is putting this stuff together. Where we really see the struggles is on the packaging side, putting this stuff, running a packaging run of the Irish Extra Stout, stopping the line, changing the beer over, and then running a whole packaging of oatmeal stout, and then we break all that up and repack it again. So that's where the main struggle is, for sure.
It is a little bit of crazy making to do it. You really have to be committed to the concept and the idea of making it happen in these packs. And it's not, there are far simpler ways of doing it. This is not the way to do it, simply. Did we get your question? Did we cover most of that?
We've got time for one more if anybody has one. Otherwise, we can wrap things up, and I'm sure the guys will hang around for a couple minutes if you have any questions to ask. All right, gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing that beer with us. That was a lot of beer and a lot of good beer, and we appreciate it. And of course, all the variety. So keep doing what you do for us. Round of applause for our panelists today, please.
Thanks very much.